blueprint that was unveiled in the Senate today. Democratic Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez is joining us from her home state of California. Here in D.C., Daniel Stein is president of the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Thanks to both of you for coming in. Congresswoman, let me start off with you. A pathway to citizenship for, let's say, 11 million, 12 million illegal immigrants here in the United States. Isn't that a form of amnesty, as the critics like to say?
Well, first of all, we're going to have regulations, I believe, about what the qualifications that they need to meet. They are going to need to speak English, for example. They are going to have to pay a fine for having probably gone the system and being here. They are, of course, if they have anything criminal in their background, they're not going to be eligible. So I think there's going to be a high bar for these people to meet, and it's also going to be a time of residency that they're going to be required before they ever even have a chance at citizenship here. But I do believe that they're already here. We've already realized in the Congress, even the Republican side has realized that you can't ask them to self-deport. You can't deport them all. You can't incarcerate them all. And that it's important for our country to move forward for homeland security reasons, from a family value standpoint, and from the economy and our interests. So all in all, I hope that this bipartisanship that has been shown in the Senate will come up with details that will be acceptable to a majority of the people in the House also.
And Dan Stein, it's not just liberal Democrats who favor this. A lot of conservatives, Marco Rubio of Florida, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, they were all out there saying the time has come to deal with this in a comprehensive way.
Look, we've heard all this before. I mean, I've got video of Chuck Schumer in 1986 saying this will be the last amnesty. We won't do it again. Take a look at the debates in 2006. This is the only time. Ted Kennedy said that. I think you had some footage earlier today. Look, Marco Rubio said he wasn't going to support a path to citizenship. The AFL said they're not going to support a big guest worker program. We got a slack labor market. We certainly have job displacement. We have flat wages. We see an awful lot of Americans who are struggling. How is this bill, by giving a big amnesty and setting off a tidal wave of more foreign labor, going to help the average American get his kid to college, get a job, get better wages, improve working conditions? How is it going to help our fiscal situation in the states? The way the bill, see, what we've got right now is a skeletal draft. And these guys go into it holding arm in arm like they're going in the tunnel of love. By the time they get through the immigration debate, it's like they've been in the lion's den. Because ultimately, when you get down to the details, what you see is all these provisions are things that we've essentially had on the books anyway. If the president would enforce the law, most of that stuff would be gotten done anyhow. So ultimately, it's a big amnesty bill with a prospect of illusory enforcement, which with this administration's track record is really illusory.
Well, but Dan, this is a bipartisan push, at least, you know, at this point it is. And Senator John McCain, a strong Republican, he said today at least part of the reason behind this push has to do with elections and the fact that elections matter. Listen to this.
Elections. The Republican Party is losing the support of our Hispanic citizens. And we realize that there are many issues in which we think we are in agreement with our Hispanic citizens. But this is a preeminent issue.
So if this is the reality, you know, the political reality and simply the reality, what can you do? I mean, if you're against this Senate bill, what's the other option?
This is a watershed for the Republican Party, because ultimately what they have is a problem with low-income voters, 50,000 and under, single women, and because immigration is dramatically increasing the population of people working with less skill, less education, they're having trouble reaching that population with an effective message. Now, the business groups want to continue to increase that population dramatically over time, even though that's a population voting for politicians who want bigger spending.
Then if you don't support what they're saying?
Obama himself with McCain, remember, McCain was Mr. Amnesty in 2008. He didn't do that well with Latino voters. Both Obama and McCain said, we got to support border control, get a credibility to the system the way Barbara Jordan did. And now, ultimately, we're at the same place. Where's the credible enforcement that would be a condition preceding to moving forward?
Let's let the Congresswoman respond. Go ahead, Congresswoman.
Let's talk about enforcement, because I've sat on the Border Security Committee of Homeland Security since its inception. I've actually been the chairwoman of that. We now see Candace Miller, a Republican, who represents Michigan. We have increased our Border Patrol from about 5,000 people to now 22,000 people in that agency. So we've seen an increase in agents. A majority have gone on the southern border. I've got to tell you, terrorists who have come across have actually come from the northern border. We have problems with our coastline. So, you know, everybody always points to the Latino community, but the reality is that we want enforcement to ensure that we know who's coming in and out of our country. One of the stipulations that the Senate has put in this is that we cover the overstaying of visas. I think that's an incredibly important thing to do. Certainly the U.S. visa program, which was a visit program that both the Bush and the Obama administration put in place. They only did let's check the visas when people come in. They didn't do the let's check them when they go out. We need to get that because we need to understand that, for example, the 9/11 hijackers were actually on overstay visas. So we have done a lot of enforcement. This president has deported more people than President Bush did. We've done a lot of enforcement. We'll do some more, but we need to give status to the people who are part of our community already.
It looks, Dan Stein, like you may be on the losing side of this debate, given the political atmosphere right now after this election.
Keep in mind that if Obama really wanted to get something done, he'd go with a piecemeal approach, the way Rubio said.
They want comprehensive
if it's omnibus, then it's ominous, because there's always stuff you can find.
Jeb Bush wants comprehensive immigration reform. The former Florida, you read his article in the Wall Street Journal.
This is a Bush family fallacy that Latino voters will vote Republican if you just give them amnesty. It doesn't work.
He got 44% of the vote, Bush, in 2004.
Our job,
the Hispanic vote.
Our job at FAIR is to make sure that reform means that we fix the problems that brought us to where we are today, so we don't have to do this every 10 years. What we have right now is the beginning of a dialogue, but we're a long way from the finish line.
Is there one thing that you would need to see in a bill
mandatory E-Verify. Mandatory E-Verify. Repeal the ban on warrantless open field searches. We're not going down the path of a big agricultural guest worker program unless we repeal the ban on warrantless open field searches. Also, the Jordan Commission and the Hesburgh Commission over 30 years have said you got to eliminate the married adult sons and daughters preferences and the brothers and sisters, because you have chain migration and no rational reform can work if you don't get it done.
Dan Stein is the president of the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Loretta Sanchez is the United States Congresswoman from California, a Democrat.